Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 344, cover dated May 1997. The cover is by Joe Madureira, inked by Tim Townsend, and coloured by Steve Buccellato. So clearly it features the X-Men and Deathbird versus this new iteration of the Phalanx, this superpowered, more deadly, more menacing version. And it is an interesting cover. I think it might work better as a splash page personally. I think it is quite busy, and there's something about the colouring on the page. I wouldn't say it's Steve Buccellato's fault, but it's a little bit muddy. The colouring a little bit too dark, and so the eye has to search a little bit to find the figures. There is a design going on there from Magneto at the back, kind of snaking around down to Beast. So Madureira was thinking about that, but it's also the colouring of this new version of the Phalanx as well, this kind of dark grey. Just makes the cover a little hard to read in my opinion. Also, I think the speech balloons are superfluous. I don't think we need them at all, especially since we have this banner down here at the bottom of the cover, showdown on Throne World. So let's open this one up to the splash page. Joe Madureira cover, splash page. Oh, something has gone awry there. This is not Joe Madureira, and that is a big disappointment because this really is the climax of this X-Men in Space storyline. We've had Madureira working on the 3 previous parts, and now he's gone for this particular issue, the climax, the finale. So that is disappointing. But it is well known that Joe Madureira worked slowly, and that's why he's not on this. But there may be, I was thinking about this, I was thinking if I was the editor, what I would have done here is I would have commissioned a 1-issue fill-in, a story about some other X-Men character back on Earth, maybe what Iceman has been getting up to, and then get back to Madureira finishing out this X-Men in Space storyline. So we get a summary of the story so far up here. Here we have one of these new Phalanx, and this is Lilandra. I am Lilandra Nerimani, she says helpfully for any new readers, Magistrix of the Shi'ar. Now who's this speaking here? Brave words, royal words, but in the end, well, we know that style of speaking. We know it's Gambit. So let's turn the page and we get a double page splash. Now you can see here again, the colouring is by Steve Buccellato and Team Bucc, but it's very dark. It kind of takes a few seconds or so in order to figure out and pick out the figures of the Phalanx because of their colour style, this kind of really dark grey that they're coloured in. I like the star cloud here in the background. That looks pretty cool from that digital effect, but this is too dark. This needs to be brightened up a little bit so that the reader can see what's going on a little bit more clearly. Well, the titles over here of this particular chapter, Casualties of War, and the creative team, Scott Lobdell, writer, and then, well, it's not Joe Madureira, Melvin Rubi, sometimes goes by Mel Rubi, guest penciler. Joe Weems is the main inker of most of the pages, but with help from Scott Hanna, Mario Alquiza, Harry Candelario, and Tim Townsend. So that's an indication. There's 23 pages of story and art in this issue. That's an indication that this one was under a little bit of a deadline crunch to get it off to the printers. So Gambit continues. Really what he's talking about here is just kind of catch up on what's gone on so far. In the story, the body politic says this: lead Phalanx of the Shi'ar is dead, Magistrix, the Phalanx Dominion reigns. And here is Gambit. This is Gambit's silhouette here looking through the grating at the side of this. This is the, what would you call it, like the throne room of the Shi'ar flagship. So this was Lilandra's flagship, starship. And there's Gambit. And this is like a callback to Uncanny X-Men, the end of Uncanny X-Men 275 and 276, when Gambit was sneaking around on the Shi'ar homeworld and witnessed Charles Xavier seemingly brutalizing Gladiator and Oracle. But in any case, Here he is, up to his old tricks again, but he's got company this time. Bishop and Joseph, aka the amnesiac Magneto. And we get an anchor image here of the rest of the X-Men. Trish Tilby too. And Beast here talking about, granted, we X-Men are better known as a group of mutants dedicated to protecting a world that fears and hates. As you see, you're getting all this kind of reprising of things for the mythical first-time reader by this time in 1997. Here's the interesting bit, finally. Bishop here says, I should point out a more important question might be, why haven't the Phalanx simply killed everyone already? Now, also, this little panel here is is it a swipe or an homage to a panel of Wolverine from Jim Lee's, could be Adjectiveless X-Men, 6 or 7. There's a shot of Wolverine that this reminds me of. I'm pretty sure that Melvin Rubi was looking at it. You can see from his style that he's looking at Jim Lee's work, definitely influenced by Jim Lee. There's a touch of Mark Silvestri as well, but that could be coming through from the Joe Weems inks. So Bishop continues, he says, it's almost as if they're playing with their food. So Deathbird has a brainwave by Shara, this Shi'ar oath. And you can see there on her face that she's had a realization. The children, they're after the children. So this really reminds me of Jim Lee's Adjectiveless X-Men Ghost Rider crossover, where the Brood were after the children of the thieves and assassins guilds in New Orleans. So it seems a little replay of that. Rogue here asking the question, are you sure, Deathbird? There's no sign of any children. So she's there holding her forehead and she says, as certain as I am of the blackness of my own soul, Turan, who speaks like that? Anyway, back to what she's saying. Though she is the weaker of us, my sister Lilandra would sooner have died in combat. Like, cut this out. This is nonsense. Start here with her dialogue. Though she is the weaker of us, my sister Lilandra would sooner have died in combat, a death befitting the Magistrix, before submitting to the torments of the Phalanx. And Bishop picks up, he says, you're proposing she surrendered? In exchange for the royal yet born, says Deathbird. If the Phalanx were to assimilate our offspring, they will have effectively obliterated an entire generation of my race. So here's Gambit. What's he standing on there with his right leg? It's so weird, this particular pose of his. He's standing on nothing. So what you're saying is, on top of everything else, the Phalanx are in the hen house with their claws on the eggs. Well, Rogue, what he said, says Gambit. And Rogue here, how did I suddenly become leader, she was about to say. And again, this is interesting from Scott Lobdell. He is going back to the way he wrote Rogue in Age of Apocalypse. He sees within her the potential to be a battlefield X-Men leader. And she does well enough with all of that. Never mind, she says, Beast, whatever you got planning in that blue furred brain, is there any reason we can't spare Bishop and Deathbird? So Beast says, oh sure, 7 against the universe, 5 against the universe, what possible difference can it make? Bishop decides, Rogue, take Deathbird and do what you all can to save the young'uns. Free him if it's possible. We'll hold them off here as long as we can. So Bishop with his trademark laconic phrasing, indeed, he simply says. So off they go. And what does Deathbird have to say to Bishop? She says back to the X-Men, considering you're nothing more than humans, your courage is admirable. So Deathbird, very often a villain, but one with a noble heart, as established by Chris Claremont. So she can admire a worthy foe, and in particular when that foe is now helping her. So now the scene switches back to Earth, and it is an old Hulkbuster base that has been repurposed for Operation Zero Tolerance. And here we see this clown, Henry Peter Gyrick, and also Senator Robert Kelly. And the two of them here are regretting getting into bed with Bastion. This is interesting here. Senator Robert Kelly makes a reference to his dead wife. I lost a wife to this cause, for pity's sake, he says to Gyrick. So there's the reference there to Uncanny X-Men 247. His wife was named Sharon. She was a worker at the Hellfire Club. They got together in the background of what was going on in the X-Men comics at the time, and suddenly they were married in issue 246, and then she died in a Sentinel attack. But look at this, says Gyrick. Before us is an army mobilized for combat, an army equipped with technology far beyond anything I've ever seen, fully prepared to declare war on United States citizens. So mutants, of course, American mutants. And Gyrick asks, is this what we wanted? And Kelly says it may be Kelly asks, is this what we wanted? And Gyrick says, it may be too late for regret, Senator. Their leader has grown too powerful. Congress hasn't sanctioned his group, but Bastion has people sympathetic to him inside the House, the Senate, and every other ruling party in the world. The spread of the legacy virus to the human community, onslaught's near destruction of the planet, and the assassination of Graydon Creed, who in all likelihood would have won the presidency, has made that possible. So this is all stuff that Lobdell has been working on over the last few years, and it's all coming to a head now with Operation Zero Tolerance and Bastion's plan to take out mutants from the USA. We couldn't prevent those things from happening, says Gyrick. And what does Kelly say? He says, yes, but we blaze the trail that Bastion intends to pursue. And if he follows that path to its end, it may mean the disintegration of society as we know it. Well done, you two idiots. Okay, let's see now. We're back on the other side of the known universe. Now this is an interesting page. I do like the work on this page, and in particular the inking on this page. And there's something about this kind of screen door, teeny tiny cross-hatching that makes me think this might be by Tim Townsend. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I really like the work on this particular page. And also this little kind of fetus here in the egg reminds me of the Neo-Human at the end of 2001, A Space Odyssey. But in any case, there's lots of narration here that explains what it is that we're looking at, so it's worth going over it. Unlike most words in the Shi'ar language, there's no direct translation to Earth standard to describe this place. The closest might be to call it the nest. It is a birthing place, a collective womb, where all the offspring of the Shi'ar are incubated, nurtured, protected. It is the most sacred locale in all the Empire. Since its blessed incarnation, it has never been about anything less than the dawn of life. That's what makes me think of 2001: A Space Odyssey, the very power of creation. Its hallowed walls have never known anything but peace until now. So what's all this slurping going on here? Is it going to be the Phalanx attacking? No, it's Deathbird and Bishop arriving into this nest womb. The womb embraces them, closing them off to the horror that both of them know is close behind. So now we get a nice image of Bishop and Deathbird there. Deathbird armed with those look like Bishop's guns, so he's lent them to her. She's taken a liking to them, as well as Bishop, as we'll see. In its own way, it is everything the Phalanx opposes, and she was about to call him human, and whenever she calls someone human, she's been very dismissive of them. But now she gives him his name, Bishop, because she's coming to admire him, and a little bit more than that too. It is the natural order of things, she says, the very heart of our society. It is the one spot where there is no distinction between the ruling class and the lower caste. So this is a kind of like a utopian space. In a universe where the Phalanx seek total dominion, this is where all life is equal. Bishop says, for someone who's repeatedly attempted to usurp the throne, Deathbird, you are quite the romantic. And she replies, is that a contradiction to you? That just because I believe I alone deserve to rule my empire, I somehow don't care about the rights and liberties of the myriad worlds that make up my family's kingdom? So that characterization of Deathbird goes all the way back to Claremont. He's responsible for that, for making her a nuanced, rounded character and not simply a Silver Age type villain. So Bishop now, he's got his fist charged up. He says, well, now is not the ideal time to engage in a philosophical discussion. For the moment, we should concentrate on the Phalanx. they're out there and they're coming. So Deathbird, see what I mean about her growing, grudging, liking for Bishop. Perhaps I was wrong about you, Bishop, she says. I'd thought you no different from your callow teammates in the X-Men. You seem, however, to possess a true warrior's instinct. So that's really what's caught her attention, and she asks, how's this so? So Bishop tells her, I spent my formative years honing my battle skills in the XSE. She asks, what's that? A mutant peacekeeping force that exists some 80 years hence. So that surprises her. The future, truly you are a wonder, Turan. Though I would have thought your world would be part of the Shi'ar Imperium by then. So, you know, like, she is proud of the Shi'ar, but yeah, she's also impressed by Bishop. And now there's this screeching, that sound like a wounded eagle falling from the sky. It's Deathbird that screeches. Deathbird, what's wrong? He asks. Are you being attacked by some unseen phalanx? No. So the wounds she received on the space station, they've reopened, and she says to him, there's no time to heal, mutant. Only a coward would think to convalesce amidst a crisis. Bishop thinks she's insane, pouring out her life's blood for her people. I have to get you back to the others, but she insists. Before what, Bishop? Before I die here, defending the only thing in life that has ever been important to me? Is that what you would do? Were you in my place, run away? Or would you stay and fight till your last breath? So, interesting. Let's turn the page, keep going with this. The scene switches, though, elsewhere, in the shadows beneath the throne room massacre. So Joseph, who is amnesiac Magneto, seeing the slaughter in the throne room, starts flashing back some memories, traumatic memories from Auschwitz, and he can see the death pits, his surviving them. The memories are coming back, and he looks horrified. And Gambit tells him, ignore the memories, your feelings, turn them off for now. But we see here that he can't. He's there hiding from the Nazi guards at Auschwitz, at the death camp. You got to, if we're going to pull this off. Joseph says, but those are living, breathing, sentient beings. And Gambit, with a harder heart, says, who we're going to save by sticking to the plan Beast has worked out. Understand? Yes. But Joseph thinks to himself, I understand that someone is going to pay for all this death, for victimizing those who have no means of defending themselves. So his blood is boiling there. Gambit thinks he's cooled Joseph down, but that's not what's happened. And Joseph starts activating those powers. So we get this upshot on him there, very Jim Lee-esque. The frustration and rage is coming back, and determination which gave birth to the villain called Magneto. All of that still exists in Joseph, inside, simmering just beneath the surface, declares the third-person narration. But here Beast is working on his plan. The thing he's working on is a device, not unlike Cerebro. He says the idea is we scan until we find the right frequency using the device we need to separate the techno from the organic, which the Phalanx need in order to maintain their individual remote bodies. So this is the science nonsense that is going to defeat the unstoppable Phalanx, and it is so curtly handled here. We just have to credit it and say, okay, let's allow that. So how much time does Beast need to scan with this device? 5 minutes, Gambit. 3 with my fingers crossed, he says. All we need to do between then and now is to keep, but what's going on here? The Phalanx are arriving, is it? A low profile. No, it's Magneto, who has burst through the floor of the throne room. Enough, he screams, I cannot abide this conflict a moment longer. So the Phalanx spot him, and Joseph says something that sounds a little bit like Magneto. We are more than human, Phalanx. We are Homo superior. We will stand against you where other lesser races have fallen. So everybody's shocked by Joseph blowing their cover, but they go to his aid, while Bishop and Trish remain behind working on the scanning business. So Magneto using his power there on the Phalanx, initially doing well. Lilandra, this is interesting from Lilandra. She says, when I forbade Gladiator from returning to her homeworld, I prayed he would send some support. But in truth, I was expecting my love Charles Xavier's X-Men, not Magneto. And then Gambit uses his card to attack the Phalanx. He says, shh, you're going to miss the big rescue. So she recognizes him because he's the only X-Men that was from this group that was there back in Uncanny X-Men 275 to 277, that particular storyline. So Gambit there thinking, here's hoping Joseph is still part of the solution and that we ain't seeing him revert to form on account of this trauma. Looking at him all wired like this makes me wonder how we ever beat him as Magneto over the years, because of course Magneto is an Omega class mutant in terms of his powers. And yeah, so you can see here Joe Weems is gone from the inking. No more Joe Weems inking for the rest of these pages. I wouldn't be able to say 100% who is doing the inking on these pages to the end of the issue, but you can see that the rendering style has changed. It's probably too much to hope. You know what you're doing, Joseph. You know what you're doing, Joseph, says Rogue. And he replies and says, I only know that I cannot stand idly by and let it happen again. I only know that in another time and place I made a vow, never again. So he sees the Phalanx, you know, in terms of being Nazi types, and is enraged and attacking them, but they have the ability to analyze his power and counter it. So now they're able to counter the effects of his magnetism, and they threaten the X-Men, prepare yourselves for oblivion, an eternity spent outside the embrace of our techno-organic womb. So, Beast here makes a little joke, under pressure, good golly gosh, how does one pass up an invitation like that? So he shouts out to Rogue, plan B, even as he pulls this lever. So she knocks Joseph away, who's grabbed by a Phalanx. Gambit says his kinetic charges have been neutralized by the Phalanx, so he tells Rogue you got to break away just using her strength. Meanwhile, Beast runs off with Trish in tow. Blue, I might not be up on all the latest intergalactic battle etiquette, she says, but are we running away? And he responds, actually, the correct term is strategic withdrawal. Oh, she says. But he says more quietly there, we're trying to keep them distracted, focused away from Rogue before they realize what's happening. So she replies, got it? What is happening? Even though that speech balloon there, it should be over here, closer to her, or positioned here and pointing towards her behind his leg to make it plain that it's not him saying that. But in any case, let's get past all of this to below. So in the womb, Deathbird blasting away with Bishop's guns, and Bishop thinking here to himself, and as long as they keep throwing themselves at us so quickly, we have the advantage. We're able to dispatch them before they have time to adapt to the energy we're using to blast them. We never did see them arrive into the womb, so we just have to infer they're dropping in there. She says to Bishop, you seem to be running low on the power you store within your body. He responds, indeed, but don't concern yourself. If need be, I'll take them apart with my bare hands. Now, that's exactly the kind of thing that Deathbird respects and finds attractive. You realize there is no shame if you leave right now, human. This isn't your fight. And he says, that doesn't even warrant a reply, Deathbird. You are a warrior, aren't you? I find that impressive. She says, indeed, he replies. Romance is blossoming between these two. Suddenly, an ending. You see, this is it. Like, Lobdell just really did not care very much about the conclusion of this issue. It's so by the books. You know, Beast's little scanning device, we didn't really get a proper explanation of that, but who cares? The Phalanx are defeated by Beast's blue furry brain. Cell by cell, they're separated. The pirated technology of 100,000 worlds shredded from the pilfered bones of twice as many alien races. Dr. Hank McCoy's computer program was effective. For now, the threat of the Phalanx Dominion is no more. And that's the problem with these kinds of stories. The build-up was excellent. In particular, the previous issue, I really thought that issue 343 was very good, and the end of 342 with the mystery of the space station with everybody dead aboard. And this is just such a by the numbers, by the books ending. You know, it's very ho-hum. And the only interesting thing is this chemistry between Deathbird and Bishop. Did you know this was going to happen? She asks him. Well, no, might be a bit strong, he says. Suffice it to say, I was certain the rest of the X-Men would not let us down. Is there even like just a little slight turn up of his lip there? Slight little smile on Bishop's stoic face. And then we get a double page spread to end it. The throne room. This is a bizarre leap in the air by Trish Tilby. She did nothing for the whole story. Just stayed alive, really, which I suppose is an accomplishment. We did it, Hank. We won against impossible odds. And he says, as he looks at the scene, I'll be dipped. Against an entire intergalactic army, we actually won. I think that's still Trish exulting in their victory. But look at Joseph here. He doesn't look too pleased. So what's going on there? What other memories have been loosened from his amnesiac state? Maybe we did, Trish, says Gambit. He's looking over at Joseph, but somehow it don't feel like that. There we go. Next issue, The Long Journey Home. And Joe Madureira does return to the penciling duties for just over half of the next issue, which is something anyway. Now, there's 2 pages of letters here regarding issues 341 and 342. Nothing interesting in the replies. Next month, Lost in Space. It's X-Men trying to get home. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So the Amalgam Comics, Marvel and DC trying to make some money. You know, when the industry was in trouble. We've got some scans here of Adam Kubert's pencils from his run on Peter David's Hulk, which would be starting with issue number 454. So I always enjoyed at the time seeing this kind of thing, just seeing how the pencils were done. You can see the little X's there, which indicate that those are areas to be filled with black ink. And then another last page there. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this read-through, commentary and review of Uncanny X-Men 344. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.